Hey guys, Claire here. In today's video, we're going to talk about all things Harry and Meghan. Now, President Biden salutes the Invictus Team USA at the National Christmas Tree Lighting Ceremony.
Because we're good people. That's what I see all across America, including tonight. Joining us are 43 members of Team USA who represented our nation at the Invictus Games this past September. Give them a hand. Jill and Prince Harry went to the first Invictus Games in 14 and the Invictus Games in Ontario. I was there in 16 in Toronto. Anyway, there's been great effort that we've seen. And you know, these athletes were incredible.
And from the photos that I've seen, it seems like everyone had a fun time. Now, last video, we talked about Omid's book, Endgame, and towards the end, we briefly touched on Piers Morgan revealing the names. Of course, we know by now, he said that it's Charles and Kate. Personally, I still think it's William and Kate. So since Piers's revelations, the reactions from social media has been very, very interesting.
A word on that book. I understand it was an accident, but revealing those names, it was a low blow.
Omid didn't reveal the names. That was Piers.
Even Harry and Meghan, in their hour of pain, didn't name those concerned. For those who say it's unfair to criticise Omid, I also call out muckrakers on the right.
Accuse him of rank hypocrisy, because that is precisely what it is. Run in a match and watch it blow up. That's what you did. You're like the kid with his finger in the dye.
But the royal family do need to do something about that whiff of racism.
It's not a whiff, it's a full-on stench.
A long overdue conversation with Harry and Meghan would help.
You think? When Harry was trying to have those conversations with Charles, he was busy ducking those phone calls.
Increased staff diversity, something the palace themselves admit they failed to achieve. And perhaps calling a summit to discuss concerns around reparations and slavery in Charles's overseas realms. None of these things are rocket science. They shouldn't be above one of our oldest institutions of state. They have to lean in and address concerns.
Doesn't Tessa also have a show with Crazy Kinsey? Anyway.
Now, remember when Meghan Markle said that they was trying to clock her baby's skin color? Well, turns out in a Dutch book, it was released that it was King Charles and Princess Kate, or whatever her name is. Now, Piers Morgan dropped that tea last night. Now, as a fellow Negro, I do believe. So let's get to the article. Now, according to TMZ, it states that the book was titled Endgame, and it was written by somebody by the name of Omid Scobie. There's a Dutch name, so I hope I'm saying it correctly. Now, they said when the book was released in the Netherlands, it was immediately pulled from the shelves and online sales, but it did get out. Now, Scobie says that he never submitted a version of his book where specific names were mentioned, and it doesn't answer any of those key questions. How does a book get translated into Dutch with names suddenly appear that were never in the English version is the kind of like the tipping point of the question. Now, in Piers Morgan's live stream that he did on his show, Uncensored, he stated that there was no ambiguity. That book was released, and I believe that they were able to obtain a copy, and the names were there. He's like, there's no way to translate, at least according to his Dutch, there's no way to translate Kate and Charles's names in any other way except the way that it was translated. So he's stating, per him and his producers, that these two people were listed as the culprits. Now, after the book was released, Buckingham Palace was upset over the accusations, and they're considering all their options, whether they're going to sue the publisher, sue the translation company, sue anybody, because they did not like being aired out. But that's what happens when you have racist family members clocking baby's skin color.
So recently, people have been questioning why Kate is aging so rapidly. The stress of being in the royal family and the stress of being in the spotlight can wage a toll on anyone. But that's not the reason. I think the reason is because she's racist. So it's been leaked in a book that was pulled off the shelves that, remember back before the whole brouhaha and the whole blow up when Meghan and Harry was like, is we out of here? Because they laying up here questioning how dark my son gonna be, how dark the children's skin color gonna be. I'm thinking it's like an auntie or somebody. I'm thinking it's about to be like a great auntie that's old and antiquated with ugly jewelry on at dinner or at some state affair. It was Kate. and Charles. So your sister-in-law and your father-in-law, the king, are openly questioning how dark your baby is gonna be. Hell yeah, I would have left too.
Guys, we officially know. We now know the identity of the senior British royals who questioned the skin tone of Sir Archie Mountbatten. Last night, Piers Morgan revealed the identity of those senior British royals. It was King Charles and Princess Kate. Woo! No, now we're starting to get the full picture here. Okay? There is a reason why there was a so-called feud between Meghan and Kate. Now we understand why Meghan was like, I need to go back to America. As for Piers Morgan's comments about, I don't believe this. Baby, nobody is asking white people what is racist and what is not. It irritates me so much when people minimize like the most obvious and overt. Their whole entire life is about image. They're not just asking bemusingly for fun. They're asking for... But whatever, people are going to see what they're going to see. I just am glad that this information came out. I am actually surprised. I never thought this info was going to come out. I can't wait to see how this plays out. It just seems like we are at a time where all the dirty deeds are coming to light. And if they were smart, they would use this as an opportunity to learn and grow. But I'm sure they're gonna instead choose to be defiant and never take accountability. What do you guys think? Are you shocked? Are you surprised? Was this expected? What do you think is gonna happen moving forward?
So the royals who made the comment about Archie's skin tone have been revealed, allegedly. And again, people are trying to minimize what Meghan was saying and like twist it and whatever. Meghan said that there were concerns over how dark the baby would be and what that would mean for the monarchy. Keyword being concerns, which means somebody was worried over how dark the baby would be. It's completely fine to be like, oh, I wonder what the baby is going to look like. But to have concerns over if it comes out dark, that's weird. And again, do you know how delusional and anti-black you have to be to think that Meghan and Harry were going to create a dark-skinned child?
And I must say, I do admire Omid's responses in the interviews, especially the interviews that he's done in the UK. They are hardballing him, but he is giving very measured responses, but with a little bit of kickback.
Is that you are a mouthpiece for Harry and Meghan. So what is your relationship with Harry and Meghan at the moment?
I'm not their friend. I've never sat down with Meghan privately for interviews. I've never exchanged information with Meghan. I'm not in their private world in any way whatsoever.
Are you fighting their corner?
No.
It feels like
I have been, during Meghan's time as a working member of the royal family, I was extremely sympathetic for the position she was in. I was one of a number of journalists that are part of that small pack that covered the story as a full-time job. For me, there were things that I saw being written about in the press, comments that were being made about her, unfair treatment when it came to how she was being written about compared to, say, how we've written about others in the past. And so I called it out. I work in the American press. I'm not restricted by some of the limitations of being a member of the British press and that relationship with the royal family. So I did go on television and talk about the racism that she faced. And rather than anyone wanting to talk about it or listen about it, I was called her fan, mouthpiece, cheerleader.
So people are questioning your sources.
Can I ask you a question? Have you ever had this conversation with people that write source quotes about Camilla, Charles, William,
100%.
Kate? Do they ever get called friends of, mouthpieces of, cheerleaders? Yes. Or is it simply because people don't like the narratives that I purport in my reporting, because it makes people feel uncomfortable? And rather than us engage in healthy conversation and discourse about it, it's easier to sling a nickname at me or accuse me of something that is, quite frankly, not true, but also unfair. I'm open to criticism and healthy conversation, but I also don't appreciate and have never appreciated the nonsense that is written about me and my work.
Omid, do you kind of feel that some people are trying to maybe discredit you, discredit the Sussexes to kind of avoid discussing whether or not the royal family's racist? Would you say that's happening?
Firstly, I've never used the racist word when in this subject. Even the book makes it very clear that we're talking about unconscious bias here. And I realise that the alliteration of racist royal is a great headline, but that's not the subject at stake here. We're talking about a conversation that was raised about the colour of Archie's skin that they called concerns.
And I've got to say, I've been enjoying it. He's handled those interviews very, very well. If you guys have seen the interviews, let me know what you think. The usual suspects have been attempting to sort of make excuses for, trying to say that what Kate and Charles were saying is not so bad. It's just normal curiosity. And because this has been such a firestorm due to the UK press. I feel like the UK press has been the ones who has created this uproar about the book. As usual, they say that they love the royal family, but a lot of the things that they do while claiming to defend the royal family ends up creating an even bigger firestorm. Now that this is out here in the stratosphere and Piers just had to involve himself in it and make it about him, a lot of the clips of what Harry and Meghan actually said in the Oprah interview and what Harry talked about in his interview for Spare has been circulating.
In those months when I was pregnant, all around this same time, so we have in tandem the conversation of he won't be given security, he's not going to be given a title, and also concerns and conversations about how dark his skin might be when he's born.
What? There is a conversation. Hold up.
There's
Stop
several
right now.
There's several conversations.
There's a
about
conversation with you,
with Harry,
about how dark your baby is going to be?
Potentially, and what that would mean or look like.
Ooh. And you're not going to tell me who had the conversation?
I think that would be very damaging to them.
Majority of mixed race couples around the world, that the white side of the family would wonder whether talking openly about it or amongst themselves, what the kids are going to look like. The key word here was concern, as opposed to curiosity.
And a lot of people have been saying, well, no. You guys don't get to disqualify Harry and Meghan's feelings and disqualify what was said about Archie's complexion. This is not normal curiosity. It is concerns. Do you know what the definition of concern is? That's not normal. It is colorism at best, racism at worst. So the conversation and the word concern has been key, so much so that I've seen it trending on Twitter. Crazy. But I've really been loving the discourse surrounding it, and I love the fact that a lot of people are calling it out.
Endgame details many of the stories we have heard about the British royal family before, but Omid explains these stories in a way that makes a very compelling argument that the next major moves of the British monarchy will be pivotal in either its survival or its downfall. In chess, the Queen is the most powerful, and the argument could be made that that is true of Queen Elizabeth II. And while Omid describes his own feelings about the Queen's death, I couldn't help but think how sad it is that all of these journalists were told of the Queen's passing before Harry. The idea that they were in a newsroom writing up the lines that would get them the most engagement, while Harry was flying to the Queen's bedside, unaware she was already gone, seems wrong. Omid's reverence for the Queen quickly transitions into his clear view that Charles has never been or ever will be ready to be king. In chess, the Queen is powerful enough to protect the king, but once the Queen is taken out, the king's vulnerability is exposed, and Omid certainly exposes Charles's vulnerabilities. Omid's ability to give clear reasoning as to why Charles is unfit for the job is another part of the book I thought was done well. Omid revisits the moments just days after the Queen's passing, when Charles made headlines throwing a tantrum over a pen and gesturing furiously to Clive Alderton over a crowded table, both of which were caught on camera, giving glimpses both of Charles's character and demonstrating that he has no grasp of the power of social media. Omid describes Charles as a flawed father whose jealousy over Harry's popularity with the media and William's preferred status in the firm reassert his inability to lead, both as a father and a national leader. Even with the Sussexes' move to America, Charles has never been able to break out of the shadow of his past and current failures. As Omid puts it, many who watched the coronation did not see a king, but instead they still saw a philandering husband and an unwise collector of bags of money. Among the other pieces on a chessboard is the bishop, which stands close to the king and queen and is considered the third most powerful piece on the board. However, the bishop is limited in movement, only able to move one direction. And according to Omid, William also only seems able to move in one direction, toward the crown. Omid details how early on in Charles's reign, William began both trying to overshadow his father and setting the stage for his own reign. According to Omid, Buckingham Palace and Kensington Palace operate as hives of competing agendas. The competition between William and Charles is not new information. It is evident by the lack of joint appearances and attacks in the press that there is tension between the houses. But Omid gives many specific examples of when William has tried to steal the attention from his father. Like the time William sat down for a rare interview with the Sunday Times the day after Charles's first Trooping the Color. You know, the one with the photos that made William look like a shining single father. Despite a lifetime of grooming for the role, William has struggled to gain momentum. And for someone who has lived a life of praise, having to now deal with image challenges is new territory. However, most of his image issues are of his own making. Earthshot is still widely unknown. His silence around the treatment of Meghan while simultaneously seizing opportunistic photos calls into question his thoughts on race. He publicly sided with the palace by calling Diana paranoid, and as Omid says, he seems somewhat obsessed with Harry. In a never-ending competition to beat Harry's popularity, William is ultimately the source of many of the negative stories about Harry and Meghan. My only criticism of Omid's coverage of William is that at times he portrays him as a sympathetic figure who makes his choices out of necessity and duty to the crown, but offering excuses for William will only enable him more. But in chess, each player has two bishops that work together covering parts of the board the other cannot reach. And with this in mind, I found it interesting that Omid did not describe William and Kate's marriage as a great love story. Instead, he quoted a royal source saying their marriage is a partnership, an alliance, and a lifetime commitment. This description makes their marriage sound like a business deal, and well, it wouldn't be the first time the idea has been floated. In my opinion, Omid's criticisms of Kate are mild. He does say that she's infantilized, but he also perpetuates the myth that Kate has never put a foot wrong. I would argue she has had many missteps, from wardrobe malfunctions, intentional or not, to an apparent lack of knowledge on topics like how food banks work. But honestly, I'm less interested in what Kate does on her own and more interested in what she does to emulate Meghan. As Omid says, once Meghan arrived, Kate's wardrobe changed and her approach to royal events changed, mainly because Meghan was proving to be more like Princess Diana than Kate could ever hope to be. But while Kate is keen to take on Meghan's looks and characteristics, behind the scenes, she ignored Meghan's mental health challenges and, as Omid said, spent more time talking about Meghan than talking to her. Rumors are that now Kate shivers when she hears Meghan's name, but that doesn't stop her from continuing to copy her, all while enjoying the part-time royal status that Meghan was denied. The bishops may stand close to the king and queen on the chessboard, but there are actually pieces that are more powerful. The rooks are physically removed from the king and queen, standing near the outer edges of the board, but their power lies in their ability to do something the bishop cannot, and that is take out the king. Harry, too, finds himself physically removed from the king and queen, and like the rook, perhaps in a more advantageous position, able to move in more directions than the somewhat locked-in bishop. When he deems it necessary, Harry is able to fall back into his royal role, standing vigil over the queen's coffin and popping in for the coronation. But he's also been able to break out on his own, living his life on his terms and focusing on the causes that mean so much to him, like the military, mental health, and taking on the media. At this point, Harry has nothing to lose when it comes to taking on both the UK media and the firm. He's financially independent and fiercely protective of his wife and children. Plus, he knows where a lot of the bodies are buried. And that is why, despite William constantly salivating over the crown, it is Harry who could actually take out the king. What is also unique about the rook piece in chess is that it is the only piece that can ever be moved together with another piece. It is ironically called castling, moving pieces together. Salt and pepper, Meghan said. In contrast to Omid's description of William and Kate's marriage as an alliance, Omid quotes a source who describes Harry and Meghan as closer than ever and genuinely happy. But Omid acknowledges there were less than happy times for Meghan. He does a fantastic job of detailing the racism Meghan experienced while being a working royal. Things like courtiers laughing at the idea of Meghan dressing more African or letting her afro out, or palace aides saying that Meghan deserved the terrible treatment she received. All while the family stayed silent, living and working among their blackamoor statues, racist paintings, and social media comment sections filled with slurs about Meghan. But the institution didn't care about Meghan or her feelings. And Omid describes the terrible effect that this was having on her, quoting a member of her team at the time saying, "She will give you the impression that all is fine, but it's clearly taking its toll. It's really bad, Omid." But perhaps what bothered them most of all was Meghan was unimpressed by royalty. Here was a woman of color, allowed into an entitled, exceedingly white space, and how dare she not show an abundance of gratitude? And then she walked away from it all. And the treatment of Meghan, whether the palace knows or not, sent a message to people of color everywhere. But as Omid says, if Meghan's presence didn't alter anything within the royal family, perhaps nothing will. There are other pieces at play, the pawns, or the lesser-known royals like Edward and Sophie, who the firm briefly tried to use as replacements for Harry and Meghan, but as one Fleet Street editor explained, he would be better off putting his own mum on the front page because they generate no interest. They have, however, been kept in the fold, and like pawns, used to carry out the bulk of the overseas engagements. Perhaps it's the casual bigotry Omid claims they express based on their condescending comments about Oprah that has kept them endeared to the family. And it almost seems fitting, after days of the dominating conversation being who are the royal racists, that the chess pieces this family seems to easily represent play out their parts on a game board that is 64 alternating blocks of black and white.
Members of the UK tabloids have also been attempting to sort of coax Harry and Meghan out into saying something to squash the backlash against the royals.
I'll tell you what they could do. They could clarify definitively. It really sounds like, from Harry's comments in January, that he does not actually believe it was concern. That
and this is where he said it wasn't.
Racism.
We never made the racism
We never
allegation.
accused him of racism. So what they could do is they could come out and confirm that actually Meghan's use of the word concern was perhaps not the best choice of word and switch it to curiosity.
Did anyone else catch what Jack is attempting to do there? He's saying that Meghan's use of the word concern. Previously, we saw a video of Harry also using the word concern.
The key word here was concern, as opposed to curiosity.
I love the silence coming from them, and it is driving the UK press crazy. So I love it even more.
Occasionally, I think, no, he's found the light. He's seen the light. He's no longer crashing on about Harry. And then this appalling diatribe we've just had to sit through. You claiming, you lying there, suggesting that you're putting their names out effectively to save the monarchy. You put their names out for clicks. You're no better than Omid Scobie. In fact, you're worse. You call him a little spittle. You're a great big gob of phlegm that's just landed on the royal doormat. I don't know how you slept last night. I struggled to sleep thinking about what you'd done. I really can't, and yes, I did.
Certainly you've denied that there was a racist allegation when it clearly was a racist allegation.
Yeah, so let me start by saying I'm not a royalist. I'm not really a big fan of the royals. I think they're paid far too much money from this country for being born as a royal. But I can say that King Charles and Kate Middleton are not the royal racist in question. That I can say, because I've spoken...
I was going to say, how do you know that?
So I've spoken today to a person who works with the royal family closely, with the senior royals. This person worked with the Queen, and this person is friends with Charles and with a number of the other senior royals.
Okay.
So they have told me today who the so-called royal racist is, and it's not Charles or Kate. Now, don't go through and say to me, is it this person, is this person, this? Because obviously, you know, by way of...
I've got a big old list.
You'd be able to identify...
There's a lot of cousins in that family, JJ.
well, exactly.
So hang on. So I mean, your sources are always pretty good, JJ. So within the last hour or so, you have heard from a reliable royal source.
Yeah.
Literally to your face.
Yes.
That King Charles and Kate are not
the person who asked this question.
Who asked this question about the colour of Archie's
So
skin.
let's go back to the Oprah interview, because this is where it starts. From what my source told me, it starts there. When the Oprah interview aired, everyone, all the senior royals, were concerned, mostly more so upset, because they were all implicated. Because rather than saying it was this person specifically, it's then, is it them, is it them, is it them? Harry and Meghan only said it wasn't the Queen, our late Queen, it wasn't Prince Philip. But everyone else was worried. So there were conversations happening between the royals about this for 2-3 weeks after this incident happened. And that's when my source was told from several of the senior royals, well, actually, this is the person who asked the question. Whether that question was asked in an innocent way or whether that question was asked with racist undertones, I don't know. But I do know the person who did it, and it was not Charles and it was not Kate.
You know, James, let me tell you, I don't really care if they use her as a scapegoat. And let me tell you, she didn't care when they were using Meghan as a scapegoat, especially during her wedding when they had that whole Meghan made her cry and she let that shit go on forever and ever until it was too late. She finally came out and said something, but it was too late. Her reputation was besmirched by then. I don't really care. You know, she continues to sit idle while they use Meghan as a scapegoat, and she's perfectly okay with it as long as it's not her. So I don't have any problem with her being a scapegoat. It is what it is. Never, you know, never explain, never complain. So let her get some. Let her get some. But also, let me make it clear is that she was a scapegoat once before, so it ain't nothing new. Remember Wadey Katie, Lazy, they called her Lazy. You know, before Meghan came, she was the scapegoat, and they you know, William let her be it, so she can be it again. It'll be all right. She'll be okay. Put her big girl panties on, and let her have the days she deserves.
Okay, so spoiler alert here, Endgame. Now, something that I found really interesting in Endgame when Omid Scobie was talking about Kate Middleton, when he was talking about the infantilization of Kate Middleton, how Kate Middleton really had a misstep, which is untrue, right? Because of Meghan, I'm sorry, not Meghan, but because of Kate's infantilization, they have been more willing to sweep her messes underneath the rug. But notice that this infantilization really didn't start until Meghan Markle showed up on the scene. That's when Kate became the perfect princess. But we are looking at a woman who has very little personal accomplishments of her own. Like, outside of her degree, she hasn't really had a job. She hasn't really had any successful charities. Yes, she's a mother, but nobody actually knows how good of a mother she is because no one knows who Kate Middleton, the person, is. And that is directly due to the British royal family and the firm watering Kate Middleton down to nothing more than a pretty face that rarely speaks. The amount of people who don't know what Kate Middleton sound like is ridiculous when you realize that she's been in the British royal family for at least, 10 years, if not longer. The people don't even know what she sounds like. But in the British royal family, your popularity is your currency. And Kate has had a lot of currency because she's been one of the more popular royals. Now enter Meghan Markle. Meghan Markle, who is a very accomplished woman. She has a lot of personal accomplishments, right? So a successful show with Suits. She has very successful charities. She's an amazing public speaker. She's spoken at the UN, etc. She shows up on the scene. And then she's kind of everything that Kate Middleton is not. She is confident. She is brilliant. She is kind. Even when she was doing that one charity with the cookbook, that cookbook is still generating funds for said charity. Meanwhile, a lot of Kate's charities have shut down. Now, we have to remember, a royal's most important currency is their popularity. So now you had a world where you had a Meghan Markle and a Harry who became swiftly the more popular royals, especially with the younger generation. And that's something that the royal family is struggling with, how to get the younger generation. But the younger generation love them to the point where Kate's team went up to Kate and told her she had to step her game up. That she had to do a lot less listening and a lot more doing. They changed the way she dressed, her hair. They even tried to change what she was doing. Even like with this, like, you know, the symposium that she just had. They're doing everything in their power to make her look like she is this ambitious go-getter, and she's not. But can you imagine having very little personal accomplishments, and the only thing that you really have to say is that you are married to the heir? Because remember when those kids asked Kate Middleton who she was, and she said, I'm married to that guy, talking about William. She has no personal identity, and she's being told that she needs to be more because her biracial black sister-in-law is outshining her. Like, I'm not at all surprised that she was jealous and bitter and hateful because of that. Because what we're not going to also pretend like is, one, misogyny war doesn't exist, but we know that this family's racist. We know this family is racist. We know it.
With some major Kensington Palace Earl Grey tea, y'all. So, the melanated delegation of the internet has been wondering which one of the royals were talking greasy about our cousins and them, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex son, Prince Archie's skin color before he was even born. We'll leave it to Piers Morgan to deliver the messiness, because according to him, there are 2 editions of a new book called Endgame, Inside the Royal Family and the Monarchy's Fight for Survival. In the Dutch version, the author accidentally revealed the names of the royals who allegedly questioned Archie's skin tone.
Now, 7 dwarfs ears looking boy, right. Prince Charles. How dare he?
So basically, them the 2 that thought Archie was gonna come out looking like Wesley Snipes. Because remember the way they were questioning his mom, like, well, how dark is he going to... They thought he was going to come out looking like Wesley Snipes.
Okay. First off, the King Charles thing doesn't surprise me at all. I would think if there's someone in there, it would be him.
It would be him.
I'm black and I'm British. Basically, I'm what the royal family was worried the baby would look like.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Also, hit that notification bell.